if some 20-year-olds invited me to the
Put that
football...
away now, otherwise I'm going to take it off you. I am fed up of having you in here behaving like a Key Stage 3 pupil.
Me again, because I'm reading a book and you're disrupting again. Whatever you're saying.
You have been told
Why?
multiple times.
Why can't I play it?
Because you are not allowed
Last
to.
year we could.
Yeah, last year we could.
We're not doing last year. We are done with it. Last year was gone.
At least let me log out.
We will log it out for you.
No, I am.
Teachers are up and leaving their profession left and right, spending years of their lives to attain their title as a teacher, spending thousands upon thousands of dollars just to be pushed around, put down, abused, harassed, bullied. But because it's just children, you should really suck it up and grow thicker skin, because this is the profession you chose, right? This is the job you chose. You knew exactly what you were getting yourself into. Interesting, because the last time I checked, nobody signed up to have a barrage of absolute negativity every time they are to step into their very workplace. Do some teachers deserve to be criticized and called out for their actions? Most definitely. But just because these are children doesn't mean that they are void of any sort of consequences. What teachers of today have to put up with, and the rewards of it, are so few and far in between. Why stay in a workforce that allows these teachers to be human punching bags for these kids? These kids are not being parented. That is not on the teachers. These kids have people in their lives who refuse consequences because they are just little angel babies who could do absolutely nothing wrong. Now, this argument isn't to say that we should bring hitting children back. Absolutely not. What I am doing though today is exposing the schooling system for being absolutely grubby mutts, my guy. These schools are more focused on looking better as a whole, of keeping the detentions lower, because these people are just generally getting more lazy. Now, what happens when consequences become lazy? The kids are not all right. They start acting out, and because there are no consequences to their actions whatsoever, they are going to continue to do this kind of shit. And we're seeing more and more teachers on TikTok being ridiculed for speaking up about this abuse that they're suffering every day in these schools. How about instead of trying to protect the school's image, you start supporting the people who are the reason that these kids are even getting an education in the first place? Because seriously, what the is the benefit of being a teacher nowadays if a lot of kids in the classroom are misbehaving little assholes? But oh, they're just a kid. You know, we can keep on saying this until Jimmy grows older and he starts doing this exact same abuse onto his partner, and then he further perpetuates it onto anything else in his life, such as if he chooses to have kids. But because he was told constantly that when he was in school, he was just a kid and it was just fine, there were no consequences whatsoever to his misbehaving motherfucking ass, now everyone's just raised demons. This person has inspired me to do this video today because I am so sick and tired of people saying that these teachers are snowflakes. They had to take on the brunt of shit during the pandemic, and still to this day it has gotten so much more worse for them, and nobody seems to care, because it's like, all right, well, I had a bad experience with a teacher many years ago, so that means all teachers are like that. You know what? I had a lot of teachers treat me like absolute scum of the earth. Now, do I think all teachers are like that? No, I think the teachers who treated me like that are the scum of the earth. See how like discriminatory that is? It is so up what is happening at the moment. Take it away, sweetheart.
Their job 2 weeks into the school year because they're not getting paid enough, or because the politics that they're dealing with from outside of the classroom is too much to handle. No, that's not the reason. The reason why they're quitting is because These kids are mean, and they're making the classroom a war zone, and they're getting zero support from parents at home and from admin on their campus.
Exactly. And because they are getting no support at home, because, you know, the parents are out at work working their absolute asses off to be able to provide for their children, to be able to provide food, gas, electricity, a roof over these kids' heads in the middle of inflation, in the middle of a housing crisis, in the middle of the worst financial shit that we have seen as of recent. When you have a child, you take on that responsibility to parent them. Otherwise, why have kids? I just don't understand. You know, the cute little baby phase is over, so it's time to shove an iPad in their face with unrestricted internet access, then to send them off to school and not give two shits about how they treat people, because they're not treating you like that. They're taking out their anger on their teachers, and that's completely okay because it's not on you, right?
100% stems from the stuff that they have to deal with day in and day out from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. inside their classroom. It's the stuff that you have to deal with inside your classroom that makes you burn out and makes you never want to come back. I understand that so many of our kids are dealing with rough lives at home and are dealing with trauma, dealing with mental illness, dealing with learning disabilities.
But it's no excuse, though. It's no excuse. Like, I suffer with ADD, right? And in school, it was hard for me to learn. It wasn't the easiest. There were certain subjects where it was just a breeze, and then there were certain other subjects that were very hard for me. But it was no excuse for me to get up, make a ruckus in the classroom, use my teacher, and make every single one of my classmates' lives a living hell until it's home time. No, it's no excuse. Same with trauma. You know, with kids, this is a hard topic. It's a really touchy subject because when we're bringing in the question of trauma with kids, it's hard for them to regulate their emotions as is. If they don't have someone there to help support them, to listen to them, to just be a parent to them. And there is no right or wrong way with dealing with trauma, because trauma is a lot of different facets to trauma. You have people with different kinds of trauma. You have people with different levels of trauma. And with kids, it's hard to sit here and say, well, that's no excuse. And then with learning disabilities, oh, well, that's no excuse. But what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, it is no excuse to be a menace to society. But at the same time, it's up to the parents, it's up to the guardians of these child in their life to take action, to take responsibility, and to actually parent them. If the very least you cannot do is be there, love them, listen to them, support them, take them to therapy, I think that a lot of these parents do not deserve children. I don't want to sit here and shame parents for not being good parents, but at the same time, you're letting these little menaces out into the world and just having everyone else pick up the crap for you. It's not on. Children need to get a good education, and that cannot happen with no teachers. So what are we going to do when 50% of the teachers just quit because this becomes an even more present problem, but the schools don't want to do anything about it? The parents don't want to do anything about it. So what happens? What happens? There's nowhere that these kids are being guided. So what's happening?
All of those things make it difficult to thrive in school, and I understand that. But the problem is that all of those things are no reason to treat other human beings like a piece of garbage. Regardless of your opinion of teachers, most teachers that I know wake up every single day excited to teach whatever lesson that they've spent hours planning and creating. And they want to have a meaningful experience with the students in their classroom. They want to have a good day. And I know, speaking for myself, I woke up every day praying that it was going to be a good day, praying that the kids that I had that day were going to be as excited about the content that I was ready to present as much as I was. And most days, that is not what I got met with. On the daily, teachers are getting cussed out, spit on, hit, flipped off. Their equipment is getting broken and stolen. there are bullies in class that are relentless, not just to their own fellow students, but to the adult in the room.
Because when these kids don't already have respect to the most important person in their life, their parents, why would we be expecting respect to us from them? Like, there is a larger problem at hand here. And I think that if there really is a solution to be implemented, there needs to be some sort of strike. There needs to be some sort of drastic change, because otherwise these teachers are going to continue to be used and abused in a system that already doesn't give a shit about them. So it's just...
Imagine if you had to deal with that at your job. I'm speaking to non-teachers right now, right? You would not put up with that. You would stay somewhere where you were treated with respect and you knew that you were safe in your work environment. If someone came every single day to your job, bullied you, hit you, cussed you out, rolled their eyes at you, treated you like you were nothing, like you were garbage, you wouldn't want to come back either. You would put in your 2 weeks notice. But for some reason, so many people believe that we signed up for that. Because that's a part of teaching, and that's just how kids are.
I'm so tired of that shit. That's just how kids are. If I was to go out on a murder rampage right now, I could just say, but that's just how I am. That is just Caitlin. But it's not right, is it? Or whenever, you have these 60, 70-year-old people who are still living in a time that doesn't exist anymore. And, they're to say some racist shit. And then it's like, oh, that's just Uncle Billy. That's just Grandpa Joe. Does it make it right? Like, I don't get it. Just because they're kids, it doesn't give them a pass to be little demonic assholes. I don't care. It's not okay. This topic I have been meaning to talk about for a long time now, but I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to come up against me and be like, well, Drama Queen, you don't know this, that. Yeah, I do know a thing or two because I was in school once and there were people like this.
I made the decision not to return to the classroom this year.
Good.
And I haven't been in a classroom for months now, and I still have nightmares, trauma nightmares on a weekly basis.
And if anyone wants to downplay her trauma just because she's a teacher and just because, these are just kids doing that, so you're invalidating trauma now. So we're going to invalidate trauma now, because trauma only matters if it's certain sort of things. Trauma doesn't matter if it's something that happens with teachers, apparently. Well, that is according to TikTok. Let me be fair here.
I still have nightmares, trauma nightmares on a weekly basis about my former classroom and my former students. And yes, it is a parent and an admin problem just as much as it is a kid problem. Because the difference between now and 20 years ago even is that 20 years ago, when you would have a kid cuss you out, hit you, smack other kids, ruin your property, steal things off of your desk, there was going to be somebody on campus that was going to back you up and find a solution. But now that's not the case. Suspensions are down because they want those numbers down. They want to look good. They're not suspending kids for getting in fights and being violent in the classroom anymore. It's just not happening. Even in the early 2000s and 2010s when I started my career, I was assured that if I called a parent to tell them about what was going on in my classroom with their child, they were most definitely going to say, I am so sorry. Do what you need to do. I'll talk to them when they get home.
But that isn't happening anymore. That's the problem. If a kid does something wrong nowadays, it's immediately the parent feels so offended that someone would even bring that up to them. And then they go ahead and they post it on social media, and then the school gets cancelled and the teacher gets fired and they lose their career. So then you have a trouble of that happening and a fear of being, blasted online for something that honestly I think is generally understandable. If I was a teacher and I had all of these misbehaving little you know what? I'm calling up every single parent until we find a solution. But you can't do that nowadays because the stakes are so high. But then let's talk about the fact that there is another side to this where parents just generally just can't be there for their kids at the moment. And that's the saddest part, is that the consequences for this is what is happening in schools at the moment. And so if nothing changes about this, you guys, it's going to get a whole lot worse. That not only, and I'm specifically talking about America, because I know that here in Australia, schools, they are seeing that problem, but it's more so America, because America is just this big land of, there's just so much that happens there. There's so much negativity too. I hate to say it, but I predict that something really bad is going to happen to one of these teachers any one of these days now, because nothing is happening with these kids. There are no consequences at hand that are being dealt anymore. It's just a free-for-all for kids to do whatever they want, treat people however they want, and as they grow up with this mentality, they're gonna grow up into the worst pieces of shit on the planet. Yes, I'm being harsh, and yes, I'm being brash, because that's what all of this comes down to. If nothing changes, it's just going to get worse. So please, stop blaming the majority of these teachers who are just trying to do the right thing, who are traumatized and don't know where else to go because they have no support there. Imagine going into your workplace every day and being berated. It doesn't matter if they're children, doesn't matter if they're adults, doesn't matter if they're old people. It doesn't matter. It feels the same from every aspect, and kids are just becoming more ruthless and more mean by the day. Like, I thought kids were terrible when I was in school, and now come to find out that no, it's actually 30 times, if not 50 times more worse. And that brings me to this point. If I have any teachers, if I have any students who are watching this video right now who have witnessed some absolute atrocities, send them to me at dramaqueensubmissions@gmail.com, or alternatively, let me know down the comment section below, because this conversation is really only being had by teachers because for some reason, people are too afraid to say the realest shit, which is kids nowadays, they're not all right, and they're progressively becoming worse as people. Now, it is society's fault as a whole, but a lot of the fault lies upon these parents who aren't doing anything about this shit. So with all of that being said, everybody, thank you so much for your time today. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, and most of all, love your fucking selves.